We are exactly 3 weeks away from May 15th, and the person controlling the world's most powerful currency is about to change. But this isn't just a standard leadership shuffle. We are looking at the revival of a 76-year-old lethal script designed to liquidate debt at the expense of the middle class. The last time this playbook was activated, it ran for 28 years and quietly devoured 60% of the purchasing power of every saver who stayed on the sidelines. By the time most people realized what was happening, it was too late. It's 2026. The global financial will has been reset, and with $39 trillion in unpayable debt, the bill is being sent to you. Today, we're breaking down the return of financial repression and the 4 things you must do to prevent your wealth from hitting zero. Welcome back to the channel. Let's look at the facts. Jerome Powell's term as Fed chair officially ends on May 15, 2026. However, a detail many are missing is that his term as a governor lasts until January 2031. He could technically stay on the board even after stepping down as chair, much like Mariner Eccles did in 1948. This means Powell's influence might linger, making the transition even messier. His nominated successor, Kevin Warsh, faced a rocky confirmation hearing in the Senate on April 21st. Senator Tom Tillis initially blocked the vote due to the Department of Justice's criminal investigation into Powell. However, as of today, the DOJ has dropped those charges, making Warsh's appointment almost a certainty. Now, is Warsh a puppet for the administration? In his hearing, he told Senator John Kennedy that he is no one's puppet. But we know that what a nominee says to get confirmed rarely matches what they do in the Oval Office. There is also a huge misconception that Warsh is a hard hawk. Many point to 2010, claiming he voted against QE 2.0. I went back and checked the FOMC minutes from November 3, 2010. Warsh actually voted for QE 2.0. The only no vote came from Thomas Honig. Warsh wrote an op-ed in the Wall Street Journal criticizing the policy on the same day he voted for it. A classic move of political theater. If you're betting on him being a rigid hawk, you're reading the map wrong. The real danger isn't the man, it's the direction. And that direction is dictated by a ledger that is currently standing on the edge of a cliff. Look at these 3 numbers. First, in April 2026, U.S. public debt officially crossed $39 trillion. We are adding $7.6 billion of debt every single day. That's $115,000 for every man, woman, and child in America. Second, debt to GDP is now floating between 100 and 124%, depending on your metrics. This exceeds the peak of World War II. Back then, we were mobilizing for a global conflict. Today, we're hitting these levels in relative peace. Third, and most terrifying, interest payments. In fiscal year 2025, interest costs hit $970 billion. By the end of 2026, we will officially cross the $1 trillion mark. For the first time since 1940, the U.S. is spending more on interest than on national defense. This is a math problem with no easy exit. But here's the secret. The government doesn't plan on paying back the debt in the way you or I would. They plan on using financial repression. This isn't a conspiracy. It's a verified economic strategy used from 1946 to 1974 to bring debt to GDP down from 106% to just 23%. How? Not by saving money, but by making the debt shrink through inflation while keeping interest rates artificially low. This strategy rests on negative real interest rates. Between 1942 and 1951, the Fed capped short-term rates at 0.375%, while inflation peaked at over 18%. If you held cash, you lost nearly a fifth of your wealth every year. It's the ultimate hidden tax. As we head toward May 15th, Kevin Warsh's rumored three-card plan looks like the 2026 version of this old script. First, he wants aggressive rate cuts. If the Fed drops rates to 2.75% while CPI inflation sits at 3.3%, your real return is negative 0.55%. Your money evaporates mathematically. Second, he wants to continue quantitative tightening or shrinking the Fed's balance sheet, hoping the private sector, pensions, and overseas buyers will pick up the slack. Third, he is betting on AI as a deflationary force to keep costs down while he cuts rates. It sounds perfect on paper, but the logic is contradictory. You can't have AI crushing costs while simultaneously trying to inflate away the debt. The resistance is already building. Beyond the Senate gridlock, the Supreme Court is currently reviewing a landmark case that could overturn the 1935 precedent protecting the Fed's independence. If the court rules that the president can fire Fed officials at will, the Fed becomes a political tool, and its independence is dead. This would turn the Fed chair from a lifetime appointment into a temp job, essentially making them an arm of the White House. History tells us that during periods of financial repression, cash is trash. Between 1946 and 1974, even though interest rates averaged 3.5%, inflation was so much faster that $100 in the bank ended up with the purchasing power of only $40. Stocks and real estate grew, but it was a brutal, volatile ride. From 1966 to 1981, the real return on the S&P 500 was actually negative 0.4%. There are no easy wins here. There is only running faster than inflation or being consumed by it. So how do you survive the 2026 reset? First, realize that cash is not zero risk. Nominally it's safe, but its purchasing power is a falling knife. Second, diversification isn't for maximum profit, it's for survival. In the 70s, single bet strategies failed. You need a mix that can withstand deep bear markets. Third, watch the real interest rate like a hawk. That is your nominal rate minus inflation. If that number stays negative, the repression is active. The next FOMC meeting on April 28th will give us the first signal. If they cut, the 2026 reset has officially begun. Don't wait for the mainstream news to tell you the doors are locked. Stay vigilant, watch the data, and I'll see you in the next one.